One of the biggest pain points that most people have when starting a business is they ask themselves the question, like, do I need to go through the process of setting up an LLC, building out my business structure, getting business bank accounts, and all that kind of stuff? And I really want in this video to emphasize to you that at the end of the day, unless you're going to commit to actually building a business, you really don't need to go through all of the hassle that is involved when like with forming an LLC or forming any type of entity for your business. When I actually started my business, I gave myself a month where I said, okay, I am going to test this business model. At the time, it was retail arbitrage. I'd watched a webinar that kind of explained the process. You go out, you find products on the shelves of your local stores, whether that be places like Home Goods, Marshalls, that kind of place, discount stores, or wholesale type stores, Sam's Club, Costco, those type of things. Basically, go find products on those shelves where there's an arbitrage between what you're going to pay for the product in your local store versus what you can sell it for on Amazon. There's a whole process for that. If you actually just do a quick YouTube search for retail arbitrage, you'll find more information about what that business type looks like. But what I did when I first started that business model is I said, okay, I'm giving myself $500. And with that $500, I'm going to go invest into inventory, get the process started, and test it. Because at the end of the day, if I go through the process and learn the motion of what I need to do in order to actually scale this business, I can at least then determine, after having gone through one inventory cycle, what it would take to actually scale that business and how much time it's ultimately going to take. Because at the end of the day, for me, when I was starting my business, I was still working a full 9-to-5 job. I was still running a YouTube channel at that point in time. And I was also actually, ironically enough, I was also working part-time at an Apple store. And for me, I didn't have a ton of time to like invest in this business. So I really wanted to find something that had a little bit of leverage, that basically I could take a little bit of time and really understand, is this a business that I actually want to pursue? Or is this just something that is out there where I don't necessarily have the opportunity to make a bunch of money? So what I did is I actually, my first $200 was spent on a bunch of different things. I had things in the toy category, things in the kitchen category, things in the game, different games and that type of thing. And I purchased all the inventory. I got it up, put it in a box, shipped it off to Amazon. Obviously, you have to set up a seller account, add the inventory into your account, and then you can do what's known as fulfillment by Amazon, which basically gives you the ability to send your inventory to an Amazon warehouse, and then they'll take care of the shipping. So the only time investment for me was finding the inventory and shipping it off to the Amazon warehouse, and then everything else after the fact was basically taken care of by Amazon. They deal with all the returns, the customer service, all those facets to that business. And I gotta say, it was the most interesting moment for me after I had sent the inventory and I got the email response that Amazon had checked everything in, everything looked great, where I opened up the Amazon seller app and I saw that something had sold. And I scratched my head because it's like, wait, it's really that easy? Like, you just send them stuff and then the money cycles? Now, obviously, there's a lot to a business like this where you're trying to manage how much you're spending on inventory versus how much is coming back. And there's actually a great strategy that you can use specifically for this type of business model, where basically if you have a credit card, you can basically churn that credit card where you're buying inventory on the credit card, you send it into Amazon. By the time that Amazon pays you out the amount of money, you can basically pay off the credit card. So basically you're floating money on this credit card as kind of the means of funding the business. So you can actually slowly scale up to where you need to be in order to push that business forward. I got to the point, I think, where kind of things flatlined for me is where I had a handful of SKUs that I would consistently be able to like go buy off of a at the time it was a Sam's Club shelf, send it into Amazon. I could basically buy a pallet and a half of this particular product, and I could send it in, and within a month, I would basically sell all of the inventory, get the cash from Amazon, and then pay off the credit card. And I basically I could churn anywhere from I think my biggest month was around $15,000, which to me at the time was bonkers because that meant that my credit card was sitting at around four or five or $6,000, depending on how well the margins worked. And for me, that was it was just such a fascinating thing. It took me literally 2 hours a week to call up Sam's Club, order the inventory, have it show up, go pick it up, wrap it up, send it into Amazon. 2 hours a week, just going through that cycle. Now, for me, my biggest problem with that business model is you hit a point where unless you have the means to expand the inventory SKUs, the number of SKUs that you're doing with that, it's going to be hard to scale that above and beyond. I actually have a really good friend that I share this business model with. And he actually took it one step further. Rather than looking at it from a retail perspective, he took it from a wholesale perspective. He found a bunch of different distributors who had hundreds of products. And he basically was able to go through their library of products, find the ones that met his criteria of the type of products that he wanted to ultimately sell. I think he ended up in kind of the pet niche. There's a whole category of pet supplements that he's done really well with, where basically he's got these supplements that sell on a relatively consistent basis, and he's got anywhere between 50 and 100 SKUs where he can go back to this distributor and continue to sell that product month after month. And obviously things will ebb and flow as time goes. So kind of back to the core of this, it's not until you've actually committed to where you're saying, yes, I'm going to do this for the long term, where it makes sense to actually take the time to set up a business structure, to get an LLC, get your bank accounts, get your EIN, get all of those details wrapped into place. Use the beginning stages of your business. Now, couple of caveats just so that to save yourself the headache down the road. If you're going to start a business, I would highly recommend just opening up a separate checking account. It doesn't have to be a business checking account, it can totally be a personal one, but it is a separate bank account where you run all the transactions through that bank account. So for me, the way that I did it is I had a local credit union. They needed $5 on deposit in order to open up a checking account with them. So gave them the $5, and then I had two credit cards. I had one credit card, which was 100% personal stuff, and another credit card that was 100% business stuff. Once by having that separation, when it comes down to tax time, you actually have to go in, you have to run your business like a business, and you have to evaluate like what expenses were for the business, what can I deduct against, the income that's coming in as a function of the sales that I'm generating. And by keeping everything separate, it makes your life a lot easier because you're not going through months worth of bank statements trying to determine which ones are business expense, which ones are personal expense. And by keeping it clear cut, when you do end up structuring an LLC and creating bank informations, it's just a matter of transferring all the stuff from that personal account that was set aside into the business, and then it's a clean transfer of your books from a personal account into a business account. Me personally, I think that very first year when I was going through and running my taxes, it took an extra probably between 4 and 5 hours just to manage all of the expenses of like what got paid for before the LLC was created and what got billed after. Once everything was after, I could basically print out a CSV file or an Excel spreadsheet of all the transactions and then itemize things as necessary. Obviously, in that business, that very first year, I think I did $54,000 worth of revenue, which is a pretty sizable amount. I think net profit was only in the $10-ish thousand. So retail arbitrage, just as a business model, tends to be lower profit margins just because you're dealing with physical goods. You've got shipping involved. There's a lot of overhead type expenditures. that you have to deal with. And I'll probably talk about that particular business model in a separate episode, kind of going through the nuts and bolts of that. But really what you need to do is you need to focus on actually trying to do the business that you want to do rather than worrying about all of the miscellaneous things that need to be done as far as setting up LLC and getting your EIN and all those details. At the end of the day, if you focus on executing the business and testing whether or not that is actually what you want to do, you'll find yourself much further ahead than if you are taking all this time planning, trying to figure out like all the details of everything that needs to get done. At the end of the day, the person whose business is going to succeed is the one that actually takes the action to add the value and deals with all the miscellaneous stuff after the fact. Because there is Dan Sullivan says progress over perfection. At the end of the day, how do I make progress doing the thing that I want to do and creating the life that I want to create, and as opposed to always planning and trying to figure out how to get the smallest percentages of more efficiency out of everything. I think this is something that I struggle with a lot, is taking too much time to plan and architect what this thing looks like rather than just going and doing the thing. It's why I'm making this video right now. I know that this video probably won't get edited for another week or two, but I'm taking the time to record it rather than plan and execute, rather than plan and ponder what I'm going to do. I'm executing and just doing the thing that needs to be done in order to move things forward. So if you're interested in learning about a couple of different business models, I would highly recommend checking out this video right here, where I talk about kind of the 3 business models that I see kind of for online businesses. So highly recommend you check out this video right here, and I'll see you over there.